a Sassy Sleeve Saturday, and I am super, super excited. While everything's kind of getting set up, I'm going to make sure everything is streaming and working. So if you're here, definitely say hello. I would love to hear from you and see you and hear where you're tuning in from. And if you are watching the replay, I would love to know where you're watching from and what kind of digital patterning you love to do. Looks like we're good on one. I'm going to go and double check on the other so that we can make sure everything's looking good. Let's see here. Looks like we are good to go on both platforms. So again, I want to welcome you to a sassy, or not sassy sleeve. We are not doing sleeves today. We are doing skirts. So I want to welcome you to a stylish skirt Saturday. I thought it would be a fun day to just do some digital pattern drafting. And I have been seeing lots of pencil skirts with a little flare at the bottom. So I figured it could be really fun to draft that in Illustrator and then maybe move it over to Clo 3D and actually seam it together and see what it would look like in the full, when it's fully sewn together without actually having to sew it together. It's one thing I love about digital pattern drafting is you can actually see the final bit before you're there. If you're new, hi, I'm Christina, and I love to digitally pattern draft, creating unique pieces of wearable art. I love being able to take a rendering, take a picture, and really deduce it, design analyze it, and really dig into it, and then create those pattern pieces to actually recreate that garment. So let's go ahead and bring up my Illustrator artboard. Gonna share that screen. There we go. So you should be able to see my Illustrator artboard here. I have a cute little pencil skirt with a little flare at the bottom that I think I'm going to be recreating today. I might be putting a little bit extra flare in it and doing a little bit of changes, maybe having a little bit less wide of a center front princess seam, but I thought it would be a really fun thing to pattern. If you don't know, I am also having a Black Friday sale going on right now that is all about digital drafting. So if you are interested or if you've ever thought about doing some digital drafting yourself, this is a great way to kind of jump in. So you can also check out that sale going on. The link is in the description so you can see what digital drafting is and get started with it. So the first thing I'm going to do, since I'm only going to be working and drafting the skirt, I'm going to go ahead and only copy the skirt over. So I'm just going to move the skirt over here. And I'm going to leave it so that I can see my little reference picture up in the corner. I always really like to have that reference corner kind of, or the reference picture up in the corner or somewhere near, so I can always kind of go back and look at it. When I'm working with it with just myself, I sometimes have it on my second screen. And just depending, sometimes I leave it on the board, sometimes I don't. It just depends. But I always recommend having your reference picture, if you're working off of it, close by, so you can kind of continually go back and recheck it out. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slash my pattern pieces apart. So I have my front skirt pattern here and my back skirt. And I want to change it into princess seams because there's definitely a seam coming down the skirt on either side. I'm going to reflect the front to the back. So I'm just going to go ahead and start by adding these lines down. Now, there's a couple different ways you can actually cut apart your pattern piece. One way is you can you can highlight the outside of your skirt, hit cut, and cut at the two intersections, and then you can see that I can highlight one side or the other. But to do this, then I'm going to have to actually recombine the patterns into one. So I want to copy front this pattern, and then I'm going to select just one of those lines and that outside line and just move it. Oh, I did not get both of them. Got to make sure you're holding shift. Then I'm going to move it out. So now I have two patterns, but they're actually not full patterns. They're broken. So I would then have to go and rejoin these patterns so that they were full patterns. Because if I don't do that, I might have problems later, depending on how I'm going to work. And knowing what I am probably going to do, I'm going to want to have them to be like a full incorporated pattern. So that's one way. The other way that I also love to use, we're going to make this, whoops, just a little bit longer. So we're going to just make it a little bit longer. So now it's actually going through the other pattern. Then what I can do is highlight this, go to divide objects below, and it automatically divides them and recreates them into a pattern. So that is a super fast, easy, happy way to more quickly get those patterns cut apart. So, and then depending on how you want to do it, is depending whether you want to have him left cut apart or not. Since I'm not yet to my tracing phase, I kind of want to have them back cut together. Then the next thing I'm going to do, since I am going to be cutting it probably, mid-thigh, maybe a little bit above the knee to start the flare part, I'm going to go ahead and line all these patterns up on the bottom. That way I can just draw one straight line across everything and it will cut it out for me, or it will evenly cut a line across. I can go through each one of these and say, I want to have a line that is 10 inches up. And then I can do that individually. Or I can draft a single line, which I did not even up. So I'm just going to even up with the bottom of that line. Then I can grab that line and I can move it horizontally 0, vertically negative, well, we'll try 10. That's a little bit too high. So I'm going to do -7, maybe 8. Yeah. Okay, I like that a lot better. So it comes down to that design analysis of where is it going to start flaring back out? Because I'm going to want to take it a little bit of a nip in and then flare it out from below that. Then again, I can do the exact same thing like I did earlier here is where I highlight one pattern. I can then cut each side and then repaste a line so that it has it, and then I can separate it. Or I can go the easy route, highlight the line, go to Object, Path, Divide Objects, and now they are all divided. So I can then grab these guys and just pop them up and away from my bottom patterns. Because right now I'm actually not going to be messing with the top part of my patterns at all. I'm only going to be messing with the bottom part. So let's go ahead. I'm going to move this down just a little bit so I can zoom in and start slashing and spreading. So, let's see here. How much extra fullness do I want to put in? Do I want to get about double? I think I want to do a little bit more than double. I think I want to do like 1.5 times. So, or 2.5 times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a copy front. I'm going to move it down, copy front, because I want to do some calculations to figure out how much I want to do. Now you can just eyeball it and go free willy and see what happens. That is definitely something I sometimes do, depending on what I'm actually making. But when I actually want to really deduce it and figure out, or if I'm working with a designer who says, I want it, 1.5 times the width, then you really want to be able to do exactly 1.5 times or 1.75 or 2.75. So right now I have this at 18.6. So we're going to get a calculator out. We're going to do 18.6 times 2.5 divided by, and then how many times? 1, 2, could do 3, 5, 5, 5. So I'll probably do 5 on these two side pieces. So that's 10. Probably do 4 lines on that back. 1, 2, 3, and then the center just a little bit. I'll do probably 2 or 3, so 10, 11, 14, 15, 16. We'll start with 16. It's 2.9. That's quite a bit to be adding. That's actually a lot. So maybe let's 18.6 times. What if we did 2 divided by 2.3? Yeah, we'll just do it double times because I think 2.5 might really give it a good flare. And I'm not sure I'm going to do that quite yet. So we're going to go ahead and now do some line division. So I'm going to, again, copy front. I'm going to move that line. And then we're going to lengthen it just a little bit. And we're going to evenly distribute it. Now, if you want it exactly even, we can definitely get it horizontally, and then we just need to bump it over like so. Then I can do the exact same here, and then I want 2 more like that. I'm actually pretty happy with how even that is. That's not quite. So we can true that up just a little bit. Then we can grab and pull. And then again, 3 more on that back. I could probably actually do, I'm gonna do 1 more on that back. Even that out just a little bit. And yeah. I just realized I did my calculations kind of backwards too. I needed to still subtract. So if we did 18.6 times 2.5 equals minus 18.6, then we divide it by the 16, 1.75. That's much better. That's much better. That's more of what I was expecting it to be. Sometimes those math things get a little crazy. So I am going to be slashing and spreading. This one, this is my center front right here. So I actually want to make sure that stays perfectly up and down because I don't want, that's actually going to be the place where I would unfold my pattern. So I am going to just move these pattern pieces apart from each other just a little bit so that they hopefully don't run into each other as much. We're going to move that guy that way a little bit. And then we'll move, it's probably a little far, but that's okay. We're going to play around with it. And then we're going to go ahead and get started on this guy. So again, I'm going to go through and I'm going to divide the objects below on each one of these so that I can have them all pre-prepped with me. Just like that. Then I'm going to go ahead and draft my line. Doot, doot, doot. Actually, I want to draft it at 1.75, I believe it said. And we're going to go at 0. Then I'm going to gather all the parts that I want to change. We're going to rotate it out to that 1.75. Then I'm going to move this pattern piece. We're going to rotate it up. Grab the other pattern pieces. Rotate like so. And just keep going. I love that it is how quick and easy it can be, and especially if you need to undo. Now, if you are ever wanting to pattern draft in Clo, it is definitely faster to actually create that. But I now have these slashed and spread. If I ever wanted to change them around or change them back, I would still have the ability to kind of maneuver them around to either add more fullness, less fullness, depending on how my mock-up went for my pattern. So I'm going to do the same thing on this one, except I'm not going to just do it on one side. I want to do it on both sides so that they can evenly spread in both directions. So this center one, I'm actually going to do half on one side and half on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and go through, and we're going to divide the objects below. I would also love to know, what type of patterns do you love to create? Like if you were to create your own patterns all the time, or if you do create your own patterns all the time, what patterns are your favorite to create? I always love hearing what everybody is really interested in. So definitely drop it in the comments what pattern you're interested in. First I'm going to do, and I'm just going to go ahead and do 1 inch for this first one. And then we're going to rotate. So the center, I'm going to actually have it rotate out just a little bit more than I will for the rest of them. I'm going to go up at that angle. And we're going to go at 1.75. Grab them. Rotate. There we go. We're going to fine tune that with some keys. Rotate. So there's that one side. Now we're going to do the same on the other side. So I'm going to start with rotating this center guy out 1 inch like that. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab this guy, rotate him. And then one more. There we go. So we now have our center front and our side front kind of already patterned out, and they're not quite ready to be traced because I still have a little bit too much space in between the flare and the top of the pattern. But we kind of have this top princess seam. We're going down, we're shaping around the hips. We're going to nip it in just a little bit here when we're tracing, and then this is going to give us the flare. And I see that somebody loves doing dance costumes and full tutus. Oh my goodness, full tutus are, I've never made one, but they are just gorgeous. I absolutely love the look at them. I've never made one, but I don't know if I have the patience for all that tulle. So we're going to go ahead and continue on to the back, doing the same. There we go. And we're going to do the same. So the middle, I'm going to do a little bit extra than the others. So we're going to start by giving us, I'm going to have a baseline. I always like to have a line there to kind of tell me where my center always was. I just find it helps make sure I'm re-seeing everything. That way, if I ever want to go back to my pattern, I can easily know what it was and where it was and be able to kind of replace it as I see fit. And we're going to go up at that angle. 1.75. rotate, move it, rotate it. There's one. It's time to do the other side. There we go. Onto the last, onto that back piece. So we're going to divide them. And then we have to remember that this is our center back. So again, we don't want to go on both sides. We just want to go on the one side because we will actually be folding that out for the full pattern. So I'm going to start with this one. We're going to draft a 1.75 and rotate. Rotate. Now I did do one extra one in the back than I did in the front. And I'm debating whether I actually want to do that. I think I want to keep it the same. So I don't think I'm going to do that last one. I think I'm just going to leave it. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it for right now. And we'll get to see how full it is. One thing that I would always do is I would make a mock-up or at least fit it onto my Clo 3D people to kind of see a gauge of it. This can also help with the hem if you want a super even hem and a few other things. So before I actually go and trace it, I'm going to want to re-line up my pattern pieces. Let's actually zoom in. So I want to reline these pattern pieces up, and I like to line up this piece right here. And if you can see, this is actually then it's giving just a ooch more room in that center front area, which I'm happy with. Now, you can leave it this long, but then that's going to make it that it won't be a even hem. However, depending on the fabric you're using and the flare that you're going to actually give and everything, you're still going to want to maybe use like a hem puffer to actually test out your hem because you're going to need to flatten it anyways. But if you want to make sure it is even, I'm going to give me a guideline. So I'm going to copy front. Did I get the whole thing or I did get the whole thing. I want a copy front. There we go. And then I can put that up right there. And then that's going to give me that guideline because right now I am dropping this. So you want to make sure that you're not actually adding too much fullness. You want to add the fullness here, not necessarily the length. So it does depend on what look you're going for, but that is something to be aware of. Then I'm going to go ahead and move, oops, wrong tool, get on the right tool. I love Control Z in on the computers, and I'm pretty sure I need a shirt that says, "Where's my Control Z of life?" or something like that. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to group these, and then I'm going to center these two. And it looks like that really decentered them very interestingly, because that is not where I'd want it to be placed. So I'm going to just go ahead and eyeball that center because I want the center from this top part to be nice and close. And it does look like I might have given just a 1/16 of an inch more to one side than the other because they're not quite touching, but I'm okay with that. So we're going to continue on and do the same thing for our other ones. Just move this down. That one went real fast and easy, and the same with this one. And I am again going to give myself that guideline so that I know, and it's not going to be super long. And I'm actually going to do that for all of these. So I have this center line. Oops, I want to copy that center line. And then I'm just going to pen across so I know where it ends because I'm copying basically right on top of it. I guess what I could do is I could just move. Let's ungroup you because you're the one I grouped. Aren't you? Ungroup. There we go. Then I can just copy and put you straight up. There we go. Move you over if I have you highlighted. There we go. And it is time to trace. So different people like to do this different ways. I like to add a layer, lock my first layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and trace all the way around. So I'm going to start on this first one with my pen tool, hit those anchor points, get a nice swoop there. And then what I'm going to do, oh, yeah, I probably should have done this first. So we're going to get out of this. We're going to go back to our original layer really fast because I actually want to give myself just a little bit. I want to go maybe, I'm going to draft a square that is, we're going to do a 0.5 by 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and rotate that around so that it's up. And that's just going to kind of give me a guideline. So what I'm doing, and 1/2 inch might be a little bit too much because you have to think that I'm taking an inch out of this seam, an inch out of that seam, and an inch out of that seam. So that's 3.5 inches, and that's going to be too much. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to move this down to a 1/4. 0.25. That will be better. And then I'm just going to copy and paste that over to the other parts of the pattern. This is just to kind of give me a guideline so I can swoop in just a little bit because I do want to just curve it in a little bit, but I don't want to go too drastically far. And I find giving myself just some sort of guideline is always handy. Then we're going to move back to my layer 4. And we're going to continue my pen around. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to click about in the middle of that square and get a nice smooth bump going. And then we're going to go out, click, and anchor. Now I did not hit each one of these anchors very well, so that's something that we'll have to go kind of back and fix, and then just do a little bit of adjusting. So I'm going to pull this down. That one's still not quite right. There we go. And then that's going to pull in. Perfect. Gotta go out one more. On to the next one. So I'm going to hit here. Hit and do a little pull there. Little pull there. And then we're going to do a pull here so that we can get that 90 degrees. And I didn't quite hit that anchor. There we go. Got to make sure that little zero comes up of you are connecting the circle. Um, on to the next one. We're gonna get this guy. So we're gonna go here, get a nice little going. A little bit more. And then out. So I love these guidelines. So if you want, you could follow all of the different lengths here, and it would change the length just a little bit. This will keep it the same length in the center. Up and down. There's our side. And finally, our back. There we go. So then I can turn off that bottom layer, and you can see we have our patterns all connected and ready to go. So what you'd want to do before you actually print it off or do anything else like that is you would want to make sure all your seam lines are true, put some notches on it, and then you'd be ready to actually print it out and get going. But what we're actually going to do today is we're going to, what piece is that? I don't know why that, I want to, so I have an anchor issue here. So we're going to fix this anchor issue. There we go. That way we don't have something weird happening there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy these. We're going to move them over to a different artboard. We're going to move them in just a little bit so they're actually on, whoops. So they're actually on the artboard. And then we're going to import them into Clo. When I import, I also like to give myself just a guide square, 2 by 2. That way it's quick and easy to actually get it imported, and I can see it pretty fast. So we're going to do a save as. We're going to do upload. Yes. And then we're going to move over to Clo. I have my girl with a shirt on right now. And we're going to do an import add. Oh, I guess I needed to read that last one. It's normally there. Do not rotate. Yeah, okay. As created PD. Okay, well, we can. Oh, I didn't actually finish saving it. That might have been the problem. Oh well. We're also going to save it as a PDF, because it will definitely go up that way too. Actually finish hitting the save button. That always helps instead of it being in a weird half open state. Import add. You want to make sure you are doing the add. We can try. Make sure I'm not crazy. Yeah, see, it's adding it now. So it's because I was not super diligent about my saving and I did not hit the last button. Always make sure you hit all the buttons before you save everything. So I have my skirt added in. I'm gonna go ahead and double check. So that's 2 inches. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that piece so that I don't have to deal with it. And then we're going to, oops, we're going to first unfold this part. Unfold pattern outline. Then we're going to symmetric pattern with sewing. Do a symmetric pattern with sewing over here and unfold pattern with sewing. There we go. Then we're going to sew this girl together so we can give her a test so we can see top to bottom, side to side, and front. Oh, did I probably, I don't know how I unfolded that. That should have done the side to side, but it did not. Then I'm going to give myself just a waistband to kind of work with to help make sure it starts and hooks up to the top there. So I'm going to draft a square and we're going to do a width. I believe she has a 30-inch waist. So we're going to do a 15 by 1. We're going to go and move that off to this side and we're going to do a symmetric pattern with sewing and we're going to put it on that side. Then we're going to go ahead and sew everything to the waistband. Boop, boop, and boop. And everything else should be good. So now we're actually going to, shrink that a little bit so I have a little bit more space over here. That will help. So we're going to go ahead and place this on our avatar. So let's get on the right tool. Let's go ahead. I'm going to lower all these just a little bit. Reset 2D arrangement. That's way they're kind of out of my way. We're going to get on our dots so that we can have some placement. Don't want to highlight all of them and put them all at the same dot. And then I do want to lower these because they are just a little high. Oh, and I can already see, so I always like to place it because you can see I've already missed one sewing right here. And then the back as well. And it looks like, yeah, because I probably unfolded this without the symmetric sewing. We're gonna have to look at that really fast. So yeah, I am missing just a little bit of sewing right there. So I'm going to fix that just like that. Quick and easy, not too bad. Then I'm gonna go ahead and place, you're kind of in my way. I need that little blue dot, twist to the side. I'm gonna grab this dot. I am gonna pull him out just a little bit and kind of just do a little bit of placing. I don't like when the patterns overlap. It can cause problems with Clo. So it's just one of those that I try not to deal with. So then we're going to place that one there. And we're going to move him out just a little bit and down to not cause problems. And we have this guy out. And I'm going to twist him so that he's a little bit more out, back. And let's twist. Everything's looking good. I always like to do another double check that all those seam lines are good because we don't want those seams to be twisted. So if, for instance, let's look at this very center front one. We can actually just move that forward just a little bit so we can see. So this very center front one, you can see like those lines are going straight across. If for whatever reason, let's actually get the right tool. We can do a reverse. I just not see it. No, it was the right one. So reverse sewing takes a second. You can see now that they are crossed. This will cause a lot of problems with the sewing, so that's something you definitely want to be aware of. So we're going to undo that. Next, we're going to go ahead. Before I do anything, I am also going to give myself a little bit of help with this. And we're going to make it so that it does not, the top of the skirt, oops, not 10, 100. We want to make sure that the top of the skirt stays 100. So when you're working in 3D, it sometimes lets you do stuff that would make it practically impossible for it to actually work. So I want to say this is a woven fabric type thing, that I don't want this to stretch super, super much. So I'm just going to elasticize the top line here and give it a strength 100 so that it stays at the length that I want it. The other thing I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make all this fun fabric. Whoops, I don't want to do that. Are you all out of the body fabric right now? I'm gonna assign you purple. I just think it's fun. There we go. That way we can have a little bit of variety happening with our actual patterns. We're gonna go ahead and have it sew. It worked out pretty well. Look at that. And so let's actually, other thing I forgot to do really fast, we're going to go ahead and lower that particle distance to 10 so that it kind of can relax down. Let's unclick it. And there we have it. We actually have a pretty darn cute little flared skirt. So if I bring up the other pattern that we were working off of, a little bit close, I think she turned out pretty cute. We probably added a little bit more flair than what was intended. But I think if she was going to be walking or twisting or doing anything fun, she would actually have some really great movement down at that hem. And that's what I love about these pencil skirts. There is so many varieties of pencil skirts out there. I might even do like a small mini series of like 10 different pencil skirts, because even just doing like little bits and bobbles or adding a little thing on top, you can have some really awesome different draftings off of this base drafting. So once you kind of know how to work in Illustrator, how to work in Clo, how to work with your patterns on the computer, you can actually quickly manipulate and start making some patterns. Because since I already have these base patterns in here, all I would have to do is do a quick copy paste. So if I wanted to just add something on top, if I had already went in, finalized all these, there's still a lot of tweaking that I definitely have to do before these patterns were fully actually ready to be sewn. But if I wanted to add a cute little colored blocked area, I could definitely just start drawing on here. Or if I wanted to have the seam at the top and create the bottom into a different flare, I could then go back and use these pattern pieces and redraw my patterns. So because I already have the base started, it is much faster to actually move on and keep doing and start drafting new and fun skirts. So I want to thank you for joining me today on this stylish skirt Saturday. We made this cute little flared circle skirt. We made this cute little pencil skirt that I think turned out really, really cute. So remember, if you are interested in learning how to digitally draft and get your journey in digital drafting started, make sure to check out my Black Friday sale that is happening, where you can learn how to digitize, alter, grade, all in Adobe Illustrator, and an Affinity Designer is coming in January. And just really get your digital pattern drafting journey started. If you have questions, please let me know. I'm happy to get those answered for you. And if you want to see any other specific type of skirts drafted or anything, please let me know. I'm always up for seeing what people are interested to get drafted, and we can go on another fun, stylish skirt Saturday. I'm going to stop my share for a second. There we go. Again, I hope you all have a wonderful Saturday, and I look forward to seeing you in some of my other videos.